activity, we're going to be creating a name tag on TinkerCAD. This is going to be a video that you may want to pause throughout the instruction to follow the steps accordingly, especially when we're creating our account or signing up to start. So don't be afraid to pause the video to do the steps, then hit play and come back and forth. That way you're not missing steps. First thing that we need to do is we need to log in to TinkerCAD. And how we do that is, top right, we hit login. You are going to say student accounts. I'm going to say educator, but I want you to click on student accounts, and then you're going to sign in with Google. Now, if you are signed in with on your Chrome in the top right here, you should have some options down here in order to just simply click your account to log in. It may ask you for a birth date. If it does, go ahead and type that in and then proceed. Now, my dashboard here is going to look a little bit different than yours because I've been working in TinkerCAD before, but mainly TinkerCAD has two main areas. We have the 3D designing and we have circuitry. Code blocks is kind of new. We're not going to be getting into that a whole lot, but the 3D designing aspect is what we're going to be playing with today. So if you want to go to Create and then 3D Design, and we're going to get our work plane. When you create a new project, TinkerCAD will give it a silly name in the top corner. You can click on it here, and let's rename this one your last name and then name tag. So I'm going to be Hail Name Tag. Any changes that you make on TinkerCAD will be saved automatically. A neat thing about TinkerCAD is you can also do this on your iPad also. So if you're working on something here, at any point, if you stop and you just close out Chrome, it's going to save your progress. Next time you come in, you go back to your dashboard, you click on that project, and it'll be wherever you left off. Before we get started, we need to talk about some aspects of TinkerCAD, parts of the navigation we're going to be exploring today, just basically an overall tour. Some of you may have done a name tag in a previous class, and if you have, I still want you to complete today's project anyway. So TinkerCAD primarily is shape-based. So on the right side here, we have some shapes that we can use to create our name tag. We're going to be working under basic shapes today, but just so you know, we do have some other options of some things that we can add to our work plane, different categories here. Okay, letters and numbers. This one says design starters. You can read those here. I can scroll down with my mouse wheel and see some other things. So we're going to be working with basic shapes today. There are two main parts, I should say, two main ways that you can use a shape. It can either be a solid or it can be a hole. So, for example, we have a hole that's a cube right here. They call it a box. This is a solid box. This is a cylinder, that's a solid. This is a hole. Okay, so if I were to just simply drag a box over on my work plane, I can drag this bigger or smaller by grabbing the corners. And you may notice that there's multiple squares on this. So what I'm going to do right now, that if you want to take a moment and just kind of explore the navigation of this, if I hold down my right mouse button, not your regular click, your right click, and I were to, as I'm holding around, rotate the work plane, I can see this shape from different perspectives. If I use my mouse wheel and I roll my mouse wheel in and out, that's how I can zoom. So today's project, while it's about a name tag, it's the main aspect for me is mainly to get you familiar with navigating the work plane. So rolling the mouse and let's say rotating the work plane. You can also do that by grabbing this box up at the very top. In fact, if you get mixed around and you can't quite figure out how to get it back to what you want, if you just rotate this and you click on the word top, it'll go top down. You can look here, I can rotate it maybe a bit, click on top again, and it'll center it. Unfortunately, a frustrating part of navigating TinkerCAD is there's no way that you can really drag the plane left, right, up, and down by clicking it. In fact, if you hold down your regular button, you'll see this shade or dashed box. This is going to be how you're going to select multiple items at a time. Let's get back to this box right here. So if I were to look around, you can see that there's different points here. So the white points here on the corners mean that I can drag it and stretch it in both directions. This is called the X direction, and this is called the Y direction. The vertical is called the Z axis. So I can click on a square on the top to drag it up and down. Now, something that I do not want you to really play with today because it can create some confusion and actually some errors in printing is if I have something selected, but I just wanted to show you so you know, this triangle right here will raise and lower the object on the work plane. Now, if I have it here and I need to get it back down to the work plane, the easiest way for me to do that is if I click and I start dragging, and I can just type in a 0 over here. That's something that we're going to be playing with a little bit today is the rotations and making sure that they are very accurate. And typing in a number, we're going to learn, is going to be more accurate than trying to drag these little arrows, because if we don't get it exactly to where we want, for instance on a 90 degrees, so let's say I let go like right here, it's 88, and I'm like, oh no, I want to get it back. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Now we need to get it to like change like a 2, which can be kind of tricky and off. So be something like that, but a little bit trickier. So for today's project, I would like for you to start with a box. So drag a box over, and let's make this name tag 3 inches by 2 inches. So the easiest way to do that, you see I have my numbers here, is when I start dragging and I start getting different numbers. Let's type it in. 3, I'm going to hit the enter button or the return button, by 2. There it is right there. Now as far as the height of this box goes, let's bring that down and let's make that 1/4 of an inch. So let's make it 0.25. Oh, let me click in there again. 0.25. So this is going to be just a small little tag. Now this is where we're going to learn how to add multiple shapes together, and we're going to group them and merge them. So let's grab a cylinder on the work plane. We need to make sure that we put it on the work plane. And what I mean by that is if you put it, look, if I hover over top, I can put it on top of the name tag. The problem with that becomes then when I want to move it off, see, it's hovering. Now I can bring it back down by doing this and typing 0 to bring down the work plane, but it's a little bit easier to just drag it and put it on the work plane. So we're going to make a little ring to put on our tag here. If I wanted to, let's say I forget, how big was this? Okay, well this is, click here, or here it says it's 2 inches by 3 inches. So I'm going to make this cylinder 2 by 2. Okay, and how tall is this, Mr. Hale? Okay, it's 1/4 of an inch, so that's 0.25. So I'm going to click on this, hit the top square, and I'm going to make this 0.25. Again, if you are struggling, I'm moving a little too fast. Pause the video, rewind these videos, watch these steps. So I have my part of my name tag, and this is going to be my ring. You may notice also, if I drag this, you notice how it kind of it snaps, meaning it'll move an individual block. In this case, we can change these settings. We're going to do that definitely in another video too. But this is called snap grid. So we're going to leave it at 1/8 of an inch right now. But what you should know is, if I were to change this snap grid, every time I were to move it, let's see, I even use my arrow keys on my keyboard, it's going to move 1/8 of an inch. Okay? If we want to go to settings, we can change that from inches to millimeters, which is a little bit easier to use, but for today we're going to use inches. We'll do millimeters in another project. All right, so now let's do something before we connect these together. See, it's a little bit of an overlap. Before we connect these together, what I want to do is I want to put a hole in the middle of this. So there's a couple ways we can do this, but let me show you. I can just easily grab this, which is a hole, and I can put that on there. Let me show you something else about TinkerCAD though. Let me delete that. We can in fact make any shape. So this is a solid, a hole right here. Okay, so if we just, for instance, have a box or a cylinder, I can make any of these shapes a hole if I wanted to. Okay, so let's go here and so it's on the work plane. Okay, there. Let's see here. This hole, or this is a 2 by 2. This is 1 by 1. Let's make this each 1.5. Let's see how this looks. We might end up changing it. Whoop, missed that one here. 1.5. Okay. I think I may have made a mistake there. Yep, no, we're good. Okay. 1.5, 1.5. So I can drag this and put it in here, and I can say, that looks like it's kind of close. Maybe that is the middle. It's kind of hard to tell. There's an easier way, in fact. Remember how I said with your regular click how you can select multiple things? This little dashed line, square, rectangle here. If I highlight this like so, and I have 2 objects now selected, this right here is called the Align tool. And when I click on the Align tool, you see that I can center it or I can align it in multiple different directions. So for instance, this one right here will align everything left and right. So if I click the middle here, and then I click the middle here, I know for sure that that thing is smack in the middle of that shape. And if I have both of them highlighted now, in order to actually create that hole, I need to click on this, which is the group function. And so now I've made a hole, a little ring for my name tag. If I made a mistake and I want to go back, I can either hit the undo button, or I can now, if I have this selected and it knows this is 2 separate shapes, I can actually ungroup this. Okay, and then I can resize or make changes. But if you were to download this and send this to the printer just like this without grouping it, that hole would not exist within that cylinder. So you have to make sure that you group them. Okay, now let's say I want to align this thing right here-ish. Okay, somewhere in there. That might be aligned, but that's okay. Let's make sure we're doing it properly. Highlight both of these objects now. Align tool. I'm going to center it this way. Now, if I click this button right here, it's not going to work. It's going to center everything inside of each other. If I were to, let me highlight these again, center it, or align it here, that's going to align everything on the left side. That also will not work. Let me show you here. Highlight, Align tool. No good. So what we're going to do with this, we have this aligned in the center right here. I know that because it's grayed out, meaning I can't click on it. I'm going to click on it, and I'm just actually going to use the arrows on my keyboard. It's possible that I could drag it over, but as I drag it over, I might move it up and down. And I know that it's aligned on the y-axis right now. So I'm just going to hit the right arrow key and move it over. Let's put it about here or here, whatever you decide. I'm going to put mine here. Excuse me, it just gives me a little more stability when I print. So here's my little name tag, but I'm going to highlight these now, and I'm going to group them. And you see that they change color. So what's kind of a neat feature that TinkerCAD does is that if you have different shapes, and it will show you that they aren't, I guess, the same merged, they aren't grouped together, it'll be different colors. So once I group them, it's going to be that color. Now, just so you know, this is not going to be the color of your print. Up on the front whiteboard, I'll have a list of filament colors that you're going to be able to use for this project. And you can change the color of the design here. This is just simply going to be what it looks like on your workspace, but that's not going to be the color of the filament. In fact, the color of the filament is just going to be depending on what you choose and what printer that I printed on. Okay, so let's just say for the rest of the designing, I want to make it blue. Is that blue? Blue-ish? Somewhere in there. Here's my name tag. Okay, so I was mentioning earlier, let's rotate this name tag. Now, if you want to write your name this way, that's completely fine. I'm going to rotate it, and I can also just rotate the work plane. But just to practice rotating objects, if I were to look at this here, and I have this arrow here, this will rotate it on the plane. This arrow here will rotate it perpendicular to the plane. So if I were to look at it like this, it's going to rotate it this way. Whereas now the arrow's over here, so I can see it. Here we go. I can rotate this one this way. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. There. And now, so now it's facing me. We only have a few more steps to this. We're going to put our name, or you can put information on there. That's fine. You can do it either way. If you want to do it this way, that's fine. If you want to do it this way, that's fine. I mainly wanted to show you the rotation just to remind you how we're going to change that by typing degrees. If I now grab my text, and if I put it here, it's going to be on the work plane. In this case, actually, I want to put it on top of the keychain. Now it's going to overhang, and that's fine. We're going to resize it. So you can see that it's sitting on top. And I can type this text here. So I'm going to type Mr. Hale. I can now resize it. And let's in fact say that I want to actually do this. Let's do this. I'm going to delete that Hale. Let me put this on here. And now I'm going to use a feature called duplicate. Right here. This is a duplicate feature. And if I click on it, it made a copy. I can drag it down and I can change it to say Hale right here. Let me try that again. H-A-L-E. Okay. If it's too big, whatever you're typing, you can click on your text. You can resize it by clicking these boxes here. Okay, I'm going to bring mine down a little bit. That works. Now that's way too tall for what we want to do. In fact, we want this to just simply be 1/4 of an inch tall. So let's do that. I'm going to click on the word Hale, this top box right here. So it's 1/2 inch. If I click on it, I can type over here now 0.25. Okay, same thing here. I'm going to click on it, type 0.25. Now just a reminder, we don't want to grab this little triangle here because that'll raise it off of our name tag. And let me click on it, and I'm going to use the arrow keys to kind of space this how I want, up and down. That looks okay. I'm all right with that, but I don't know if it's aligned to the center. So I'll highlight both of this. Align tool, hit center, and then there we are. Again, just like the whole, if we do not group it, it's going to be separate objects. So I got to highlight it, hit the group button, the one that looks like it's merged together. There we go. So there is my name tag. The final step that we need to work on is we need to put this into a Dropbox, which is going to be on Schoology. So we have this here, and we are going to export it. So I hit export. Actually, before I do that, I lied. Let me do one more thing. You have to pick a color up on the board. So let's do white. I'm going to make this white. You can pick any color that's up on the whiteboard. Let's rename it Hail Name Tag - white. That'll be what color your tag's going to be in. That way when we put it in the Dropbox, I know what color to print it in. Okay, now let's go to export. We're going to export this as an STL. Okay, an STL file is a type of file that the printer can recognize. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Schoology. Let's do this super quick. I should have had this opened up, but you'll get the idea. No matter what grade you're in Schoology, there's going to be a folder here that says 3D Print Dropbox. So similar to how we do the laser cuts, I click on this 3D Print Dropbox. I don't want you to put it in any of these folders here. That's for me to rearrange them. I want you to go to New, File, Upload, and then this should be under your downloads. Yours is going to look a little bit different, but it's going to be in your downloads. Double click, and once it shows up here, it's good. Now I can't double click here and look at it. Google Drive can't understand that file, but once you submit them here, you don't have to submit an exit ticket. Today's assignment, I will grade based on you putting in the Dropbox. So if you have any questions at all, you let me know. Good luck on your project.